to travel back in time, you could see the dinosaurs, dragons, or maybe even medieval castles. Or you could solve a single variable equation. So today, let's do just that. John is 4 times as old as Martha. 5 years ago, the sum of their ages was 50. How old are they now? To better understand this problem, let's put it all on a timeline. Here is a timeline. Let's represent this point on our timeline as the time now. So how old are John and Martha now? Well, this is what the question's asking. We don't know how old Martha and John are now. So let's assume their ages by using a variable. Let's assume Martha's age as the variable A. And since John is 4 times as old as Martha, we can assume John's age as 4 times A, or 4A. Now let's travel 5 years back in time. As you can see, this point here is the time 5 years earlier. So how old are Martha and John 5 years earlier? Well, to find their ages, all we have to do is subtract 5 years from their ages now. Martha is 8 years old now. So 5 years ago, her age would be A minus 5. Well, what about John? John is 4A years old. So 5 years ago, his age would be 4A minus 5. Great. So now we know Martha and John's ages now and their ages 5 years earlier. Now let's look back at the question. 5 years ago, the sum of their ages was 50. So the problem tells us that 5 years earlier, the sum of Martha's age and John's age is equal to 50. And since we want to find how old Martha and John are now, we need to find the value of A. So, let's put this into an equation. As you can see, in the equation, I added Martha's age 5 years earlier and John's age 5 years earlier to get 50, which is what the problem tells us. So now, let's open the parentheses. This gives us A minus 5 plus 4A minus 5 is equal to 50. So now, let's combine like terms on the left side of the equation. A plus 4A is 5A, and negative 5 minus 5 is negative 10. (5a minus 10 is equal to 50. Now, let's bring our constant, -10, to the right side of the equation. 5a is equal to 50 plus 10. Now, let's simplify this right side of the equation. Finally, to find a, let's take 5 to this side of the equal sign. A is equal to 60 over 5, or A is equal to 12. So now we know Martha's age now. Martha is 12 years old. But what about John? Well, we assumed that John is 4 times Martha's age, or his age is 4a. And we know A is 12 years old. So, to find John's age, we can do 4 times 12, which gives us 48. That means that John is 48 years old. Tim is 5 years older than JoAnn. 6 years from now, the sum of their ages will be 79. How old are they now? Let's put this on a timeline. Here is our timeline. This point at the start of our timeline represents the time now. So how old are Tim and JoAnn now? Well, we want to find out how old they are now, since this is what the problem is asking. So, let's assume their ages by using a variable. We can assume JoAnn's age by the variable A. And since Tim is 5 years older than JoAnn, we can assume Tim's age to be A plus 5. Now let's go 6 years ahead. How old are JoAnn and Tim 6 years ahead? Well, to find that out, all we have to do is add 6 years to both of their ages. So, JoAnn would be A plus 6 years old, since her age now is A years old. And 6 years later, her age would be A plus 6. But what about Tim? Well, Tim is A plus 5 years old. So, to find his age 6 years later, all we have to do is add 6. A plus 5 plus 6, which can be simplified to A plus 11 years old. Great! So now we know how old JoAnn and Tim are now and how old they will be 6 years from now. Now let's look back at the question. The problem tells us 6 years from now, the sum of their ages will be 79. In other words, 6 years ahead, the sum of JoAnn's and Tim's age is equal to 79. So we can use this to set up an equation and solve for the value of A. Because remember, we want to find how old JoAnn and Tim are now. So let's put this into an equation. A plus 6, which is JoAnn's age in 6 years, plus A plus 11, which is Tim's age in 6 years, is equal to 79. Now, let's open the parentheses. Next, we can combine like terms on the left side of the equation. A plus A is 2A, and 6 plus 11 is 17. Now, let's take 17 to the right side of the equation. 2A is equal to 79 minus 17. So now we can simplify 79 minus 17, which gives us 2A is equal to 62. But we want to know the value of A. So let's take 2 to this side of the equation. A is equal to 62 over 2. Or A is equal to 31. So now we know how old JoAnn is now. She is 31 years old. But how old is Tim? Well, since Tim is 5 years older than JoAnn, we can add 5 to 31. 31 plus 5 is 36. So, Tim is 36 years old.